Good evening, welcome to another episode of A Cuppa with. Today I'm not on my own, I have a guest, but first of all, I hope you've got your teas and brews. I again have my Twinings because I am apparently, for a Yorkshire lass, I'm a tea snob. But also this podcast is to talk about mental health in a comfortable conversation over a brew, like you would on any other subject. So today I have a guest. I will let him introduce himself.
Well, my name is Dean Hall. I'm from Portland, Oregon, USA, but please don't hold that against me. I'm not one of those angry, ugly Americans. And I've been a therapist, a licensed clinical therapist for 30 years. And about 8 years ago, my wife died of brain cancer 15 days before our 30th anniversary. That was so shattering to me that it suppressed my immune system, and I got leukemia and lymphoma and really didn't care.
Yeah.
I got to a point in my life where it just wasn't important to live anymore. I got down to 159 pounds and thought, this wouldn't be a bad way to go.
Yeah.
And I'd never felt suicidal in my life, and I, at that point, was shocked and dismayed because I had a 21-year-old adorable daughter who just lost her mama. And so most of my story is about what I did to come back to life.
Wow, that's a lot for anybody to go through, but I am going to pick out certain things because
Certainly.
I've always believed, and obviously they've done a lot more studies into it, that your mental health has effect on your physical health more than if it's the other way around. Now, there is contrasting stuff and people have their own opinions, and this study goes against that study. We can read any journal that goes by. But I've always had this opinion of mental health can either make you or break you, and if you're already suffering from an ailment, or like in yourself with cancer or anything like that, it makes it 10 times harder to recover if you are not within your own not within a balanced mental state. I mean, it's very hard to be in a balanced mental state if you've gone through everything you've gone through, but yours experience is very linked to the mental health with the physical health. How was that? Like that experience?
Yeah, I totally agree. I've believed in the mind-body connection way back, all the way into the 80s as an athlete. I realized that if my mental health or my mind was elsewhere, something was bothering me, my athletic performance just suffered terribly. Whereas if I went into a game feeling strong, feeling confident, feeling happy, my performance was much more elevated. And then watching, this is gonna make me sound really OCD. So here we go.
Okay.
But in order to sit for my license, I had to have 2,000 face-to-face hours.
Wow.
And once they got me counting, I never stopped. Last January, I passed my 50,000th hour.
Wow.
And I've probably done about another 2,500, 3,000 hours since. And so I've seen a lot of people.
Yeah.
And constantly, time and time again, how a person not only viewed their day, but viewed their future, and then the story they told themselves about their past affected their physical and mental well-being. And so it's really pretty much the stories we tell ourselves and how we do that. But absolutely, I was, and there are exceptions. I almost died 4 times between 2010 when my wife died and then 2014 when I swam the Willamette River.
Yeah.
One of those times wasn't primarily influenced by my body. I just swam across a lake in Oklahoma, not realizing all lakes there, just since they're man-made, are like petri dishes of bacteria.
Oh, lovely.
And I got viral meningitis and woke up after being unconscious for 3 days. That didn't have anything to do with my mental health.
Obviously, yeah.
That was purely physical. But
Yeah.
all the other times, absolutely, it was mostly because I had lost my way.
I mean, with what you went through, it would be very easy for somebody to lose their way. It's not something to be taken lightly in the slightest. And I mean, we've all had our, maybe not to the same extent as you, although I have known people to have some very extreme cases of horrible things happen. How do you build that back up? I mean, I've had my own strategies and other people have had theirs, but is there anything that you could put towards, I mean, like with the whole physical and mental together, do you personally think the whole swimming thing helped build your mental health back up?
Oh, absolutely. There are parts of the story I didn't tell you. I grew up here in Oregon and played a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
And even came to your neck of the woods at age 16 and 17.
Hey.
Had a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, didn't want to come back to America. I love the Brits so much. But had all sorts of scholarships. And on a lark, being a young, stupid kid, I picked a small college in Kansas because Kansas has a lot of American history, and I'd never heard of anyone that had ever been there. So I just thought I'd go there, play for a year, and have had a nice experience, not knowing that I would meet this cute little Kansas farm girl and fall in love and put myself in exile for love. So it was kind of a little more complicated for me because all my adult identity, we then moved to her small town of only about 13,000. And even after she died and I had lived there for 33, people were still referring to me as, oh, Mary's husband. Or they would even welcome me that way. Oh, hey, Mary's husband. And then we both realized, I'm not Mary's husband anymore. And so when she died, Kansas without the cute little Kansas girl was just, Kansas.
Kansas.
So I moved back home, but by moving home, I gave up my thriving practice, which had been a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I gave up all my friends.
Yeah.
Typically, when people go through this kind of thing, they bury themselves in work. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad.
Yeah.
But they have the support of their friends, and all of a sudden I didn't.
Yeah.
So I was very, very alone. And there was one other thing I'd seen time and time again as a therapist, and that is the power of purpose.
Yeah.
If you have something that you feel very passionate about, that you can give your whole heart and mind to, then it has the power to bring you back. And that's what swimming was for me. And it really wasn't so much swimming as trying to do some impossible physical feat or literally die trying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's powerful within itself. Like, do this or die trying. It's like, it's like if I'm going, it sounds like, to me, it's like if I'm going to die, I might as well do something awesome while I'm doing it. I've
never had anyone capture it as well. That's perfect. That's exactly what it was, Lynn, because my daughter was so scared that I was going to die, especially having almost lost me to viral meningitis just a year earlier, that she developed this tick in her eye, this nervous tick where she was winking all the time. And I just wanted to do something to show her that I was going to be all right. And then I knew that even if it killed me, she would have a legacy of courage and be proud of what her dad had tried to do.
Yeah.
Because when I told my doctors that I was going to do this, they said, absolutely not. You get in a pool and just the public pool could kill you. And I told him, "What do you want me to do? Just sit on a couch watching TV? I'm not going to die doing that. I'm going to die doing something."
Oh, you would die, but it wouldn't be an actual death. That's
Yeah.
You'd be living, but you'd be dead. That's the way I would see it.
Yeah, you just defined most of the population of America at this point in time.
Oh God, yeah.
But walking zombies.
It's the thing is, I'm with you. I couldn't sit on the sofa watching TV all day. It's not, to me, that's mind numbing. I can't, and I'm not, like, listeners, I'm not going to judge you on if you want to binge watch like the latest TV series. Well, go for it. But personally, for my choice, and this is for me, I couldn't sit on a sofa watching TV all day, because that reminds me of when I was depressed, and I knew that I spent for, I think it was about 3 weeks, I never left my sofa, unless my children needed me, because they were literally the only things that would get me moving. And when I was really dark, literally, at times, I would not even move then, because my then partner would then go and sort them out and be like, because he was like, I don't know what to do, like, you're not moving, like, you need to see somebody. So when I think of sitting on the sofa, watching hours of TV and not sleeping, and I just immediately go back to that thought, and I don't want to be that way again. I know if I sit in front of a TV for hours on end, that's going to make me go back into that, because I've got a very active mind, and you sound like you got the same thing, where you just like, God, I'm either going to do this or I'm going to just die trying, because what's the other option?
Exactly. Plus, losing my wife, really, she was only 52 when she died. And it really gave, one of the greatest gifts from that tragedy was it broke my illusion that we have an unlimited number of days and an unlimited number of moments on this planet. Yeah. We don't.
No.
And boy, you just want to squeeze life for all it's worth.
Yeah. I mean, I had a thought just recently about this, where people are like, so what's your end goal, your end, like, destination? I'm just like, and I came to the realization, death. And I know that sounds really horrid to think, but I'm just like, everybody goes, what's your end goal? Like, what's your, what you're aspiring to? How's it going to end? Like, well, the same as everybody, in a grave. Not to sound harsh, but that is your end result. So you've got from now until that point of God, I can't even get my words out. Inevitability. I think I got it right. Which everybody faces. It's not like you're singled out. It's not like death points a finger solely at you. Everybody gets it at some point. So between that span of now and when that day comes, what are you going to do with that time? It could be a week, because you could get hit by a bus tomorrow and that'd be it. Or it could be the next 60 years. How are you going to spend that? And there's where your journey is. You go between that, it's always the journey. I'm like a person who is, I don't mind knowing the end of a film, because I will still sit and watch it because I enjoy the journey of the film.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people are so worried about the end point. Once you go, well, the end point's death. What are you going to do with the bit in between? That's where you're going to go, right, well, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, or literally die trying. It's because that's the end point. And I think once you've took that into account, it makes you go, well, what's going to happen next? What can I do next? And even if you do still battle with the odd bad day, or more bad days than good, it depends how your mental health issues are, you still got some good in between there. You still travel along this journey and trying to make something of it, rather than dying before you're dead.
Which I'm afraid most of us in this modern world already have. You're right.
Yes, it's either they're dying before they're already dead, or they're spending too much being angry. There's a lot of anger in the world, and to be fair, there's a lot to be angry at. But I always say hatred begins more hatred. You don't Nobody in history has ever won by carrying on anger and hatred.
Right.
It's one of those. I've been reading Ordinary Men. I've told everybody about this, and it's because I wanted to. For one, I wanted to disprove how horrid a book it was, and bloody hell, it's a horrid book. But I wanted to see how far human behaviour could go if it was going on the bad side, and also the little bits in between. But what's come out of it is the understanding of, hang on a sec, if we've not figured out that this stuff doesn't work, then why are we still making the same decisions? And I think that comes into everybody. It's like, we already know what doesn't work. How about we figure out what does work? Like with you already knew that sitting around doing much wouldn't do anything for you. So how about I try swimming instead? Because how did you get to swimming?
Well, I did a lot of triathlons in the 80s and 90s and loved them, but I knew that I couldn't run, and I knew I couldn't bike because I was just too weak.
Yeah.
But I knew that I could swim, and I'd always grown up. Both my mom and my dad were mountain climbers here in Oregon. So I tell everyone I was raised by wolves. And because I had this wonderful childhood where we were way up in the wilderness climbing mountains, and we'd get to an alpine lake. And Lynn, this just occurred to me, and it was kind of a blow.
Okay.
But at about 8 or 9, they'd see this lake, and they'd say, "Hey, Dean, bet you can't swim across that." And I'd be like, "Yes, I can." And I'd swim across it, and they'd be so proud and congratulate me. And it just occurred to me, they probably just wanted some quiet. And they knew they'd get it if I had my face in the water. So I ran that past them, and they laughed for a while and then denied it heavily. But I think I caught the truth there. But so it planted in me this wonderful kind of life of adventuring, number one, but then swimming out in open water way before anyone was doing it. And I just knew I had to do something. And so I was looking for a purpose, and swimming really hadn't even occurred to me. But I found an old journal I kept when I was 12 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And on it I had written things I wanted to accomplish in my life when I was a man.
Yeah.
And one of them was swimming the English Channel.
Ah.
So originally, that's what I decided to do.
Yeah.
But as I was swimming, all my numbers started going in the right direction, and I started to gain weight and build muscle and look a little bit more like myself instead of, a zombie. And my head started to clear. And as my head started to clear, I started to ask myself, who cares if another middle-aged American puts on a Speedo and swims to France? It does the world no good, and in my case, it's not even a pretty picture. So I started asking myself, what could I do that would be even bigger than that maybe had never been done and would do the world some good? And I was born only blocks away from the Willamette River, and in Oregon, the Willamette River is kind of our mother river. It's like the Thames of Oregon. It cuts through the state, goes through our state capital, and then through Portland, our largest city, and then dumps into the Columbia.
Okay.
And so I found out that it was it still is 187 miles long, and no one had ever swum it. So that's what I decided to do.
I'm going to have to ask you this. What was you thinking when you was actually swimming?
Not a lot. I've been doing mindfulness meditation for 20 years, and there's something really beautiful, not only about swimming that puts you in a meditative state, but swimming outdoors. And I could feel the current, and there were many times I saw bald eagles flying over me, or deer or beaver, and just these gigantic fir trees that we have here in Oregon, and pine. And so anytime that I did get tired, I would think, you know what, I'm here in Oregon. I'm not
Mm.
stuck in Kansas anymore.
Mm.
And I'm not in a hospital bed.
Mm.
And I'm not dying. So
Yeah.
life's pretty good. So that's about all. That's
Uh,
about all.
that's because that, to be honest, that was one of the main things I wanted to ask you, because I know people get into those states of mind, and mindfulness is obviously, for one, it's a massive thing at the moment.
Right.
It seems to be such a buzz thing, and people are either heavily deep in it or basically poo-pooing the idea completely.
Right. Right.
I personally, I've been in mindfulness classes and stuff like that, and it's, if anything, it's not just the classes of helping me do mindfulness, but it's also the people I met as well, because I've met some people that I'm still friends with and love to death. But I do mindfulness and it's helped me, but there are times when I slip in, slip out. But funny enough, it's always when I'm outdoors. When I'm outdoors, if I try and do it, say if I go for a workout and it's in closed proximity, like if I'm doing it in my own home and I'm doing weights and stuff like that, I can't seem to get into that state. But as soon as I go for, like, there's an area not far from here which has a little gorge that runs through it, and I love doing all the rock climbing round it, and then I stick my feet in the water and meditate. It's freezing, but, and I can only do it for a good 5, maybe 10 minutes tops, because otherwise I can't feel my toes afterwards. But it's so refreshing. But I can't, even if I just go for a walk with a book on or stuff like it, there's got to be some form of connection to outside and mindfulness.
Oh, there certainly is, yeah. And there's a book that came out, I believe, in 2012 or 13, but I didn't run across it until after I had completed my Swim of the Willamette. I was doing some talks, and people kept saying, "Have you read Blue Mind? Have you read Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols?"
Okay.
And I hadn't. And so I did, and it was like reading my diary. And Wallace J. Nichols is a marine biologist that lives down in California, and he found that he was doing a study on sea turtles, and he'd go out for a week or two into the ocean and then come back, and he noticed that just after an hour or two on the ocean, he would feel more calm, more settled, happier, more positive. And then after a few days away from the ocean, his old anxiety and stress would crop back up and become a problem. And so he started having psychologists and even neuropsychologists study this.
Okay.
And they found that when you're in, on, around, under, or by water, that the human brain is just hardwired to slow down. And so I really think, and that's one of the parts of my story that's really miraculous. And I love this part because I really had nothing to do with it. The first blood test I took after my swim, I knew I was feeling good, but I just wanted to see how I was doing. Yeah. And the doctors were shocked to find that my leukemia was gone.
Wow.
And the type of leukemia I had was chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Once you get it, all the doctors will tell you you'll have it the rest of your life. You'll never get rid of it. You just have to learn to manage it.
Yeah.
And it was totally gone.
Wow.
And I think it was because of just constantly being immersed and on and flowing with the water. It was so good for my mind and body. I was doing it 8 to 12 hours a day for 22 days that it just kind of changed my hardwiring, my circuitry. I really believe it.
That's interesting, actually, because I've always said that I love water. I love being by water, but it has to be free-flowing water. It can't be confined. I've never bothered about swimming pools or anything like that. It doesn't interest me in the slightest. But put me near a sea, or because I come from a little sea, like literally the middle of nowhere, this little seaside town, and I always thought it was because of that. I always thought it's because I spent the first few years of my life by water in some shape or form, even up until maybe my mid-teenage years, not long before I had my daughter. And I'd go to see my nana. I'd take her dog for a walk. We'd go down by the beach. You know, when my granddad was alive, he'd take us down. Me and my sister would play. And I just assumed it was because of that. So whenever I get nearby water, I feel more relaxed. Like instantly, I can sit there. I am a very fidgety person. I have a lot of weird anxieties. I can't generally sit still. I'm usually fidgeting. Even when I'm relaxed, some part of me is tinkering away. But as soon as I get by water, I can sit. Completely sit. It's the only time I can do it is if I'm by the sea or a river and I can shut off and I can just listen to the water. Or in the case of the gorge, stick my feet in it. It's the only time I can stop, like completely stop it. So that part interests me actually quite a lot, because knowing how fidgety I am, and then I get to water and I instantly slow down and stop. It makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? And it's any client I've ever had do it since 2014, and it really doesn't matter how you interact with water. You can find your own way. But for me personally, I am quite convinced that I'm ADD, even though I've never been diagnosed.
Yeah.
But I was always the daydreaming kid that couldn't sit still as well. And starting about 17 or 18, I started lap swimming.
Yeah.
And I noticed it slowed down, even though I hated pools and they were totally boring and I don't like chlorine. It would slow my brain down long enough to go to college. And I went to a lot of college, so I needed a lot of lap swimming. And then, especially now as a therapist, I sit and listen to people all day intensely, and there's no way I could do that if I wasn't swimming. If I'm about 3 to 5 days away from swimming, everybody that knows me tells me to get in the pool.
That's the thing that's concerning me, because I'm currently in university. I'm hoping to one day be a clinical psychologist.
Oh, good for you.
A lot of, the same as you, there's going to be a lot of sitting in front of like lectures for quite some time yet. And I find myself even now sat there fidgeting and struggling to sit still, and I'll twist and I'll turn, and I've got a habit of picking at my cuticles. My parents used to say, "Stop biting your fingers," so I've moved it onto my cuticles.
You're working your way up. Huh?
Yeah, working my way up. So it does concern me. So knowing that I'm gonna have to see if I can try that instead and actually like be more in. I mean, I know water always calms me as well, but I live in a city. It's not exactly easy to get by free running water. So sure. I might have to try your theory out on that one.
You really should, because it's been 100%. I've been using this since early 90s and telling people, anybody that would come to me, especially adolescents. Now, this is just anecdotal. I don't have any research, but it works for me. Anyone that's ever tried it, and the prescription is swimming 11 laps or more 3 times or more a week.
Okay.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. But now, just a couple years ago, Michael Phelps, the world famous gold medal swimmer, is very ADD, and they did studies on him, and they found that his swimming does control his ADD. And so now it is scientifically proven. And what they think is happening in that swimming is, number one, the rhythm of water, but also what they call binaural rhythm.
Yeah.
His brain is, especially when you're doing the front crawl, just moving like this. Yeah. And that rocking back and forth supposedly balances the brain and the neurochemistry.
Well, that's interesting, because my son's autistic.
Oh, yeah?
And he absolutely adores swimming. Like, if he's in it, he ain't getting out of it for quite some time. But he's always he'll get tired towards the end of the day a lot quicker than he normally would. But he's a lot calmer throughout the day. Even, like, when we was on holiday, his dad would take him swimming. Even though me and his dad are not together, we do family holidays together. And his dad would take him swimming and I'd go for a run. And I always noticed that he'd come back in such a better mood. He would be able to sit without like, I want to do something, why can't we do something? You know, like he's just as, obviously because he's autism, he's same if not worse than me for like, we have to do something, I can't sit down. So it's nice. Oh, I'm going to have to make sure, I might just get him a membership at the swimming pool.
There you go. Yeah, and I've found now that I've spent so much time in wild waterways, a huge difference between open natural water and what I call dead water, the water in the pool. Once you get used to how a river or an ocean or a lake feels, there's something about it. I without sounding too much like a hippie, you can just feel a vibrational switch or change that is not there when you're in a pool.
It's the flow.
But I still get in the pool so I can swim everywhere else.
I always find that when I'm in free flowing water, it's the flow. It's not like, it doesn't even feel like it's going around me. It feels like it's going through me. It's like it's not, it's not like you're not separate from the water. You feel like you're part of the water, and because you're going with it, you feel like you're part of the current. It's like you're taking.
Absolutely.
It's like, I always imagine it's what a fish feels like, just going through it all. You don't go against it. You go with it. So kind of like life. You don't go against it. You go with it.
Well, I've gone against it most of my life, but not anymore. Nope. Now I go with it. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny that you've given me a lot to think about there.
Oh, good. Good. And as I'm sure you'll have questions, as those arise, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll help you through it.
Oh, well, I think the main one is I've having that connection with, as I say, I always just thought it was where I'd grown up. I just thought it was like the sea, basically. I mean, my family from my mother's side go back years of being by the sea.
Where were you?
I come from a little seaside town called Withensea, just outside of Hull in East Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
Just on the edge of the Humber. So, but it's like literally like not many people know about it. It is in the middle of nowhere, and it's sadly one of those used to be many years ago used to be a thriving seaside town. Now it's a very quiet, closed off place, which always seems a shame, but it's one of those. But I'd spent years there. My family is all from either there or around there, and they always seem to locate back there after a certain amount of time. So I just thought it was that. But I've been to places like, I spend my holiday time in Devon. Did you ever go to Devon when you was across here?
I just drove through it, that's all. Yeah.
It's the calmest waters, yet peaceful. There's something extremely peaceful. I feel really centered when I'm there. Like I could stand still for hours and not be bothered. And for me, that's an incredible feat on its own. So
right.
I say, like, I just thought water was just in my blood, like literally water was in my blood. But yeah, it's given me a lot to think about. That's interesting. And that's where I go in Devon. It's literally surrounded. There's a river that goes through, that flows through. Then you've got literally the sea on the other side of it. So you look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and where I go, there's the most peaceful and beautiful sight. Every time I see it, it makes me extremely happy. If you go up a hill, you get to the top in this place where it goes into a town called Teignmouth. And you get, as you come to the peak, you can look down. It's got a beautiful little church. And then at the back, all you see is blue. And it's the most, I don't know, it just makes me just instantly happy. There is no other feeling. I'm just like, yes, I'm back here. It's awesome. And I've only just gone to the town over, but I do it every single time.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, definitely. So, not far off from the end.
Okay.
So, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for this. It's been interesting.
Oh, it's been fun. Good.
I would say you've given some food for thought, but you've given some water for thought.
Even better. Even better.
If anybody wanted to find you, follow your journey, or, want to know more into the swimming and connection with waters and stuff like that, how do they find you?
Well, the best way to find me anymore, I'm hanging out the most on Instagram at Swimming in Miracles. And then I have a website entitled Swimming in Miracles as well. So those are the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. And then there's a Facebook page, a Swimming in Miracles Facebook page as well.
Well,
so those are the easiest ways.
I'll put all the links in the when I pop this up.
Okay.
But again, thank you. It's been an interesting one, and now we're down to
it's been fun, Lynn. Thank you.
Down to the final question. Dun dun dun.
Oh. Yeah, the big one. Here we go.
I don't have any questions for Art. This is just the one question at the end. You have been through some incredible. You've had an incredible journey from heart wrenching to heart mending, like everything from a mind mending. And I'm gonna say, you come across a person who is about to go through everything that you've ever been through, felt everything that you've ever felt, the heartache, the heart mending, the building up, the tearing down, the lot. But you're not allowed to tell them anything. You're not allowed to tell them what they're about to go through, how hard it is, what parts were easy, nothing. All you can do is give them 3 pieces of advice to get them through it. What would they be?
Well, the first one is to have the faith that everything is a miracle. That's really what turned me around and made me even start thinking about a purpose. I was just at death's door, doing terribly, just even praying for some kind of answer. And I ran across a quote from Einstein that said, there are only 2 ways to live your life. One is as if nothing is a miracle. The other is as if everything's a miracle. And because of everything that had happened to me, and because I'm the deeply spiritual person that I am, I blurted out a few profanities, nearly broke my laptop slamming it shut, and called Einstein a few names.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. It was what I call a Velcro quote. It just stuck to my heart and mind. And so I decided to give it a 2-week trial run. Imagine everything is a miracle.
Yeah.
And within 2 days, it had changed my life. I realized that I have too limited an understanding of the universe and the way the universe works, even my own body, to really even recognize the miraculous. And so I started studying the human body and found out that the human vascular system, the average adult human vascular system, is long enough to reach around the world twice. Wow. That's pretty miraculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many other things like that I could go on and on. But once you start looking at everything as a miracle, it changes the way you look at life, the way you act about life, the way you meet other people, even when they're rude or unkind or when you're having a bad day. If you believe even that bad day might be a miracle or a miracle in the making, it changes everything. And that's why my Swimming in Miracles is not so much about swimming as it is about miracles. I believe that once you start looking for miracles, there are so many around you every moment of every day that you're literally swimming in them, hence Swimming in Miracles. So the first one would be have the faith to know that everything is a miracle.
Yeah.
The second one is to have the hope that you can achieve your greatest life and your most limitless dream.
Yeah.
There is literally very few things, if any, in this life that are impossible. And so I would tell them to really hope for the absolute greatest for them. And one of the things that's been fun is one of the first things I ask any of my clients are, what are your hopes and dreams?
Yeah.
Thinking that none of them would know.
Yeah.
I've only had 2 in all these years that didn't know when I pressed them, but they'd given up on them at some point because of a trauma or a tragedy.
Yeah.
And no one's hopes and dreams are the same, Lynn. That's what's so perfect. Yeah. And so always have the hope for becoming your most limitless self and achieving what others believe is impossible. And then the third one would be, love is the greatest gift you can give yourself and others. And it's really what it's all about. And so I would really encourage anyone, if they don't know what to do, if they're having a bad day, reach out and give somebody some love, or ask for it yourself. If you know there's somebody safe and somebody that loves you enough to do that. Because as cheesy and motivational poster-ish as it sounds, I believe that love is the most healing force and most powerful force in the universe. And so it really comes down to what I call the big 3: faith, hope, and love. And I guess that's what I would encourage.
I think there's one thing I picked out straight away is when you said love yourself and others. I think a lot of people forget to do that. It's like it's easy to love somebody else. It's very hard to love yourself. And I think that is a very valid point, is that you have to remember that. And I've said this to other people, it's always the oxygen mask theory. You gotta sort yourself out to be able to help others. You can't. When I've seen therapists in the past, the woman that she was amazing. She just put it in light for me. She was like, "Well, it's a bank account. You are a bank account. If you're constantly withdrawing, you're going to be overdrawn. How can you continue to pay for stuff if you're constantly overdrawn? You have to deposit to take out." And I was like, when somebody just put it in that basic term for me, I was like, oh, hell yeah, never thought of it that way. It's always weird that there's little things that would make you go, oh yeah, great, I never thought of it like that. And you've definitely given me something to think about water. I could never make the connection. I could never make the connection, but I see the connection now.
Good. And so the 2 books I'd really like you to read, as if you weren't busy enough, are Masaru Emoto's book, and I can't remember the exact title, but I think it's either The Wisdom of Water or The Message of Water. And just look up Masaru Emoto. And then Wallace J. Nichols' Blue Mind. Those 2 books will literally continue this journey for you and change your life. Well,
thank you. It's been a wild ride, this one.
So glad.
But again, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I say, people, you need to come and look him up. He's awesome. It's good stuff. And if you like Water, you need to get on with it.
Absolutely.
Until next episode, good day, good brew.